The night was supposed to be just another high-energy weekend at Atlanta's hottest club, but what unfolded left fans reeling and the social media world ablaze. Eyewitnesses report that tensions, long simmering behind the scenes, erupted in a shocking clash involving Lil Scrappy, Kirk Frost, and Young Jock. The air was thick with anticipation, the bass thumping through the floor, and then, chaos. Voices escalated, drinks flew, and what started as a verbal confrontation quickly spiraled into a full-blown brawl. The club's security struggled to contain the storm as emotions ran high, with some insiders claiming that family loyalties were tested and friendships were pushed to the breaking point. Rumors spread like wildfire, old grudges resurfaced, accusations flew, and fans are left questioning what really sparked the explosive fight. Social media exploded with blurry videos, frantic messages, and heated debates over who started it and why. By the time the dust settled, Lil Scrappy had vanished from the scene, leaving fans desperate for answers and the family left divided. Tonight, for the first time since the incident, Lil Scrappy is speaking out. What drove him to finally break his silence? How does he respond to the claims from Kirk Frost and Young Jock? The story is dripping with betrayal, shocking revelations, and the kind of drama that could change relationships forever. Stay tuned, because everything you think you know about this night may be turned upside down. The night had started like any other, the lights low, the bass vibrating through every corner of the club, and the crowd buzzing with excitement. Lil Scrappy had arrived early, his usual entourage in tow, moving through the velvet ropes with that unmistakable swagger that fans loved. He seemed calm at first, laughing and nodding at familiar faces, but there was an undercurrent, a tension in his eyes that most didn't notice. Kirk Frost had been there too, surrounded by his loyal crew, and Young Jock, clearly in high spirits, was already holding court near the VIP section. Nobody could have predicted that a casual exchange of words in the hallway would ignite a firestorm. It started with a glance, one that Scrappy took as disrespectful, and one that Kirk apparently returned with equal measure. Voices rose, almost imperceptibly at first, but in the packed club, every word carried weight. Fans and bystanders caught the first hints of an argument, the tension building like a storm on the horizon. Scrappy stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "Yo, we gotta handle this tonight or it ain't gonna end well." Kirk laughed, a sound that didn't reach his eyes, and Jock chimed in, "Man, calm down, it's just a night out." But Scrappy wasn't in the mood to joke. The air thickened with unspoken histories, old rivalries, and unhealed wounds. Emotions ran high as the trio's entourages noticed the change, and suddenly the club's energy shifted. Whispers of past disagreements, business betrayals, and personal grudges spread among the crowd like wildfire. Fans who had been filming the dance floor now turned their cameras toward the brewing storm, sensing that something big was about to happen. Suddenly, Jock made a move that would be remembered for weeks. He stepped into Scrappy's space, shoulder to shoulder, and said, "You think you can run this scene like you used to?" The words struck like a spark on dry tinder. Scrappy's face hardened, jaw tight, and he shot back, "I never ran anything, man, but I sure as hell ain't gonna let nobody disrespect me here." The tension snapped. Bottles clinked, glasses shook, and a nearby bartender yelled, trying to intervene, but the momentum had already shifted. Kirk stepped forward, his presence commanding, his tone icy. "Scrappy, you always talking, but you never showing respect." The exchange was electric, each word layered with years of unspoken grievances, family drama, and public perceptions that had haunted them all. The crowd sensed the escalation, some stepping back, others trying to record every second, knowing that this was the kind of moment that could end up online in minutes. Then it happened. Scrappy's hand shot out, not to strike but to gesture, a warning almost, and Jock reacted too quickly, bumping into Scrappy. The bump was accidental or intentional, no one could say, but it was enough. Voices erupted into shouts. Insults flew. The tension that had been simmering for years between these names boiled over in a public, unavoidable way. Security rushed in, forming a human wall between the combatants, but the words kept coming. Kirk, usually measured, lost his cool, shouting accusations about loyalty and betrayal. Scrappy countered with memories of old slights, times he claimed to have been wronged, times he felt abandoned by people he considered family. Jock, meanwhile, tried to mediate, but every gesture seemed to fan the flames. Fans were shocked, phones recording, live streams capturing every heated glance, every shouted insult. The energy was electric, uncontainable, and the club staff could only watch as chaos threatened to overtake the night. Amidst the shouting, Scrappy suddenly turned toward the VIP section where a group of mutual friends had gathered. "You watching this? All this fake love? All this pretending?" His voice cracked with emotion, anger mixed with hurt. The friends tried to step in, attempting to calm the situation, but it only made things worse. Kirk glared at them, interpreting their intervention as siding against him, and Jock raised his voice again, telling everyone to chill. The crowd was now fully invested, fans screaming, some cheering, some pleading for peace. The scene became almost cinematic, the kind of club fight that everyone would dissect in comment sections and group chats for weeks. The argument escalated to accusations that went beyond the club, touching on family matters, business deals, and old neighborhood rivalries. Scrappy, his patience worn thin, revealed details about past betrayals that no one had expected to be made public. Kirk's expression hardened as the claims hit, and Jock's attempts to mediate fell flat as both sides were now entrenched, fueled by years of unresolved issues. The emotional intensity was palpable, as if decades of tension had compressed into a single, explosive moment. Security tried again, this time forming a barrier that forced the three men apart, but the damage had already been done. Fans' reactions went from fascination to panic as glasses shattered, drinks spilled, and the bass of the music clashed with the shouting. Whispers spread about who had started it, who was telling the truth, and who might be exaggerating. The narrative was already taking on a life of its own online, with short clips circulating rapidly, each edited to heighten the drama. As Scrappy finally stepped back, breathing heavily, his eyes scanned the crowd, taking in the reactions of fans, friends, and enemies alike. He knew that this night would define how people remembered him in relation to Kirk and Jock. The weight of every word, every gesture, every accusation hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. The club, once a space for celebration, had transformed into a stage for confrontation, and every person present felt the tension, unsure of what would happen next. The story wasn't over, not by a long shot. Old alliances were being questioned, loyalty tested, and relationships pushed to the edge. The night had already shattered perceptions, leaving both fans and family divided. Scrappy, though outwardly composed, carried a storm within him, a mix of anger, disappointment, and the need to set the record straight. Kirk and Jock, equally entrenched, were poised to respond in kind, the potential for further conflict looming. The whispers of betrayal, the allegations of disrespect, and the emotional wounds were all raw and unhealed. The club's exit doors were heavy with anticipation, the night outside now a continuation of the drama that had exploded inside. This was not just a fight, it was a collision of histories, of egos, of unspoken truths finally breaking through. Fans, watching on social media, debated endlessly. Who was at fault? What sparked the clash? Could any reconciliation be possible? And most importantly, what would Lil Scrappy say now that he had finally broken his silence? The night had set the stage for revelations, confrontations, and twists that no one could have predicted. As the first part of this drama unfolded, it became clear that this story would dominate headlines, online threads, and conversations for weeks to come. The family was left divided, friendships strained, and fans shocked, eager to see what came next, as the drama between Lil Scrappy, Kirk Frost, and young Jock promised to spiral even further. The tension didn't ease after the initial clash, if anything, it only intensified as Lil Scrappy retreated to a quieter corner of the club, surrounded by his closest allies. His hands were still trembling, not from fear, but from the adrenaline that had coursed through him during the confrontation. Kirk Frost lingered nearby, his eyes scanning the crowd, calculating his next move, while young Jock tried to smooth things over, though it was obvious his words carried little weight now. Scrappy's phone buzzed non-stop, messages and clips flooding in from fans, friends, and even strangers claiming to have witnessed the chaos. Each message seemed to ignite another layer of frustration, reminding him that nothing about this night would stay private. He felt cornered, not by the club, but by the narrative that had already begun to swirl online. He knew that the fight had exposed vulnerabilities, both personal and public. For years, his reputation had been carefully curated, but one night, one moment, and the world saw a different side of him, angry, defensive, unapologetic. His mind raced as he considered the consequences, how Kirk would respond, how Jock's fans would react, and most importantly, how his own family would interpret what had happened. Every member of his inner circle had an opinion, some supportive, some critical, and Scrappy realized that managing the fallout would be just as intense as the fight itself. Meanwhile, Kirk Frost gathered his crew in a tight circle, voices low but sharp. "We can't let this slide," he said, the words carrying an edge that betrayed his usual calm demeanor. "Scrappy thinks he can come in here and disrespect me? No way." Jock, sensing the rising storm, tried to interject, reminding Kirk of the public eye and the fans watching every move. But Kirk was focused, his mind replaying the insults, the gestures, and the moments that had led to the brawl. He wasn't just angry, he was calculating, thinking several moves ahead. Fans watching online speculated about what Kirk might do next, some predicting retaliation, others hoping for reconciliation, but everyone agreed on one thing: the drama was far from over. Back with Scrappy, the conversations were heated, though quieter. His friends advised caution, urging him not to escalate, but Scrappy's pride wouldn't allow him to appear weak. "I can't just let them rewrite the story," he said, his voice firm. "Everyone's gonna think I lost my cool for nothing." His team nodded, understanding the stakes. The night had shifted from a casual outing to a battlefield of reputation, respect, and long-standing grudges. Every move, every comment, every post online now mattered. The club's atmosphere mirrored the internal chaos. The music continued, almost oblivious to the tension, while fans whispered and speculated. Some were filming, some were attempting to mediate, and some were simply trying to process the storm they were witnessing. Emotions ran high as the layers of conflict became more apparent. The fight wasn't just physical, it was psychological, emotional, and deeply personal. Accusations flew about loyalty, betrayal, and dishonesty, each one hitting harder than the last. Scrappy recalled moments from years past, old slights and unresolved issues that had festered beneath the surface. Kirk's every word seemed to reopen wounds, and Jock's attempts at humor only added fuel to the fire. As the night deepened, the club staff struggled to maintain control. Patrons moved cautiously, aware that even a misstep could ignite another confrontation. Security was stretched thin, balancing the need to prevent further escalation with the reality that the main players were determined not to back down. Fans were shocked, some cheering on the intensity, others pleading for calm, but no one could deny the energy in the room was electric. Social media exploded with posts, videos, and live streams, each one shaping the narrative in real time. Hashtags trended, memes were created, and debates raged about who had started it, who had reacted, and what this meant for the relationships between these public figures. Scrappy finally decided he needed to speak, to assert his perspective before the story spun out of control. He grabbed a nearby mic, not for a performance, but to address the crowd directly. His voice, raw and emotional, carried across the club. "Listen, y'all think this is a game, but this is real life," he said, pausing as the room held its collective breath. "I've been through a lot, and tonight, yeah, emotions ran high, but nobody's gonna tell my story for me." The statement, though brief, reverberated, signaling that Scrappy was ready to take control of the narrative. Fans were shocked, whispering to each other, some recording every word, some nodding in understanding. Kirk, hearing Scrappy's declaration, clenched his fists. His pride had been wounded, and the public display only escalated his determination. Jock tried to intervene, but his influence seemed limited now. The dynamic between the three men had shifted. What began as a confrontation had become a battle of narratives, each desperate to assert dominance, each aware that public perception could tip the scales. The night's energy was palpable, a mix of fear, excitement, and anticipation. Fans were left questioning what would happen next, with rumors spreading that reconciliations might be attempted, or that the drama could escalate into something even more explosive. Scrappy's team pulled him aside, whispering advice, urging him to consider the consequences of further confrontation. He nodded, though the fire in his eyes was unmistakable. Kirk, across the room, was doing the same with his allies, strategizing, planning, and calculating. Jock remained caught in the middle, trying to maintain balance but unable to fully control the storm. The night, initially meant for celebration, had become a chessboard of emotions, loyalties, and power plays. Outside, the world waited. Fans had taken to social media, dissecting every clip, every comment, and every gesture. News outlets picked up snippets, sensationalizing the conflict, and fueling speculation. The tension inside the club mirrored the tension online, each one feeding the other. Scrappy, Kirk, and Jock were no longer just figures in a club fight. They had become symbols of larger conflicts, representing pride, loyalty, and unresolved histories. The stage was set for more drama, more revelations, and more twists that nobody could predict. As Part 2 unfolds, the true stakes of this confrontation begin to reveal themselves, showing that this fight was about much more than just a single night. It was about reputation, family, and survival in the public eye. The aftermath of the initial confrontation left the club vibrating with tension, the energy thick enough to cut with a knife. Lil Scrappy retreated to a secluded booth with his inner circle, but even there, the storm wasn't over. Fans were still recording, snapping pictures, and whispering about every movement. The conversation turned intense, fingers pointing, voices raised, as Scrappy recounted the moments leading up to the fight. "I didn't come here to start nothing, but I won't be disrespected either," he said, his voice firm, eyes flashing with a mix of anger and determination. His team nodded, some agreeing, others trying to inject caution, knowing that the slightest misstep could escalate the situation further. Meanwhile, Kirk frost-paced with his crew, the weight of the confrontation settling on his shoulders. He was known for keeping calm under pressure, but tonight, the combination of public scrutiny, personal pride, and the lingering words exchanged had pushed him to his limit. "We can't just let this slide," he muttered, almost to himself, replaying every insult, every gesture, and every perceived slight. Jock tried again to mediate, offering suggestions for how to move forward without further public spectacle, but Kirk's mind was elsewhere, locked on strategy and retribution. Back at Scrappy's booth, the conversation took a deeper turn. Friends and allies began to peel back layers of past grievances, some long buried but never forgotten. The emotions were raw, some tears were shed, some voices raised. Accusations of betrayal and disloyalty flowed freely. Scrappy's anger wasn't just about what happened tonight, it was about a history of disrespect, of opportunities missed, of relationships strained to the breaking point. His team listened, some in shock, some in solidarity, as Scrappy recounted stories of old alliances broken, of promises unkept, and of moments where he felt entirely unsupported. Fans watching online got snippets, clips that painted a picture of a man fighting for more than pride. He was fighting for acknowledgement, for respect, for his narrative to be heard. Kirk, too, revisited the history that had built up over years. Every insult, every perceived slight, every rumor he had heard about Scrappy's actions now culminated in this public altercation. The energy he carried wasn't just for himself but for his family, his crew, and the principle of respect that he believed had been violated. Jock, still trying to navigate the minefield, suggested a meeting to clear the air, but both Scrappy and Kirk were hesitant. Pride, anger, and the eyes of the public made compromise difficult. The three men were trapped in a cycle where every move could either diffuse or inflame the situation further. As the night wore on, whispers circulated about the family implications of the fight. Scrappy's relatives, some present, some following online, weighed in, their comments fueling tension even more. Kirk's family, similarly, was watching, evaluating, and preparing for how they might respond. The lines between personal grievance and public spectacle blurred, turning what could have been a single-night incident into a saga with lasting repercussions. Fans were captivated, sharing opinions, making predictions, and debating loyalties. The drama wasn't just inside the club, it had spilled into social media, into group chats, and into the hearts of those who had followed these figures for years. Suddenly, a surprising twist occurred. An unexpected figure from Scrappy's past appeared near the booth, someone he hadn't seen in years. Their arrival stirred old memories, old alliances, and old conflicts, adding another layer to the tension. The person approached cautiously, sensing the volatility but determined to speak. "Scrappy, you can't keep carrying all this alone," they said, voice calm but urgent. Scrappy's expression softened for a moment, the weight of years of unspoken thoughts pressing down. The conversation shifted slightly, from anger to reflection, though the edge of tension never fully disappeared. Across the room, Kirk noticed the exchange. His eyes narrowed, not fully understanding the new dynamic, and Jock sensed an opportunity. He quietly suggested that perhaps there was a way to use this intervention to de-escalate the situation. Scrappy, however, was wary. Trust had been broken too many times before. Every word, every gesture, and every glance carried meaning. The night had become a chessboard of human emotion, with moves dictated by past betrayals and present perceptions. The drama escalated when someone leaked a video clip of a private exchange between Scrappy and Kirk that had occurred earlier in the evening. The clip went viral immediately, fans dissecting every word, every gesture. Accusations of dishonesty, manipulation, and disrespect exploded online. The internet became a secondary battlefield, with memes, theories, and comment wars erupting across platforms. Scrappy watched, aware that controlling the narrative was now more important than ever. He knew that silence could be interpreted as weakness, while reaction could fuel the fire. Amid the chaos, emotions ran high. Fans inside the club reacted unpredictably, some cheering, some shouting advice, some pleading for calm. The energy was chaotic, almost theatrical, as if the room itself was a stage and every individual an actor in a drama they hadn't auditioned for. Scrappy's voice rang out again, stronger this time, asserting his stance, claiming his right to be heard, and emphasizing that respect was non-negotiable. Kirk responded, equally firm, reminding everyone that reputation and pride were at stake. Jock attempted humor, an attempt to lighten the tension, but it only drew more eyes to the seriousness of the conflict. As the clock ticked past midnight, the confrontation showed no signs of resolution. Alliances formed and shifted, whispers of future retaliations began, and fans remained glued to the scene, both inside the club and online. Scrappy's team debated the next move, weighing pride against strategy, while Kirk's crew prepared for whatever might come next. Jock found himself stuck between two forces, trying to navigate without alienating either side. The stakes were enormous, not just for the men involved but for everyone who had a stake in their reputations, their families, and their careers. The night, initially a celebration, had transformed into a crucible of emotion, history, and ego. The drama wasn't just about one fight, it was about decades of experiences, misunderstandings, and unhealed wounds, now playing out under the scrutiny of the public eye. Fans were left shocked, conversations erupted, and social media exploded with speculation. The unresolved tension promised that this story was far from over. The stage was set for more revelations, more confrontations, and more twists that nobody could have predicted. As Part 3 begins, the deeper truths behind the brawl, the alliances, and the personal stakes will start to surface, showing that this was never just about a night in a club. It was about the intertwined lives of men, their families, and the reputations they fought to protect. The morning after the explosive night, the aftermath was already making waves across social media and news outlets. Lil Scrappy woke up to a barrage of notifications, each one a reminder that the world had watched his confrontation with Kirk Frost and young Jock unfold in real time. Fans were dissecting every detail, speculating about motives, alliances, and possible repercussions. The adrenaline of the previous night had given way to reflection, and Scrappy knew that every word he had spoken, every gesture he had made, would now be scrutinized endlessly. He sat in silence for a moment, letting the weight of the situation settle, understanding that the fight had become much bigger than just a clash in a club. Scrappy's phone rang incessantly, friends, family, colleagues, and even journalists seeking comments. His team advised caution, warning him that any statement could either clarify the situation or inflame it further. "We need to control the narrative," one friend urged. "Don't let Kirk or Jock shape the story before we do." Scrappy nodded, a fire in his eyes, determined to assert his perspective. He had spent years building a reputation, navigating the public eye, and maintaining relationships that now seemed fragile in the wake of this fight. Every action, every message, every post would be calculated carefully. Kirk Frost, on the other hand, had not slept well. The night's events replayed in his mind, each insult and gesture stinging like a fresh wound. He gathered his team, plotting next steps, weighing the risks of retaliation against the benefits of letting the story cool down. Jock, still attempting to mediate, called Kirk repeatedly, suggesting a meeting to discuss what had happened privately, hoping to prevent the drama from spiraling further. Kirk's pride, however, made compromise difficult. The idea of appearing weak publicly was unacceptable. The family drama that had spilled into the club had now extended into the private lives of everyone involved. As the day progressed, leaked clips and blurry videos surfaced online, some edited to exaggerate the confrontation, others highlighting subtle gestures that were interpreted as disrespect or aggression. Fans were shocked, debating endlessly who started it, who was in the right, and what it meant for future interactions between these public figures. Scrappy watched carefully, noting the narrative shaping online, and prepared to respond in a way that would reaffirm his stance without escalating tensions unnecessarily. He knew that in this digital age, perception often outweighed reality, and controlling that perception was key. Amidst the online storm, another unexpected twist arose. A mutual acquaintance, previously unknown to the public, came forward with statements claiming insider knowledge of the events leading up to the fight. Their revelations hinted at deeper conflicts, personal betrayals, and unresolved issues that had been simmering for years. The statements added fuel to the fire, leaving fans shocked and speculation rampant. Scrappy's team quickly convened, discussing how to address these claims and whether to confront them publicly or handle them privately. The dynamics of the situation had grown increasingly complex, intertwining personal grievances with public perception. Scrappy decided to release a statement later that afternoon, his words carefully chosen to convey his side without unnecessary provocation. "Last night was intense, and emotions ran high," he said, the statement read online. "I'm addressing this now because fans deserve clarity. Respect and loyalty are everything to me, and that night, lines were crossed. I hope we can all learn from this and move forward." The statement sparked immediate reactions. Some fans praised his honesty, others criticized the tone, claiming it was still provocative. The ripple effect of the fight had expanded far beyond the club, now influencing social media trends, news coverage, and fan discussions globally. Kirk Frost's camp responded shortly after, their statement emphasizing accountability, respect, and the need for maturity. Jock, again attempting to mediate, urged both sides to consider reconciliation, noting that the public attention was unavoidable but manageable if handled thoughtfully. The statements, however, did little to calm the underlying tensions. The emotional stakes were high, and old grudges were now mixed with the reality of public scrutiny. Fans were riveted, sharing their own theories, dissecting every word, and predicting possible future confrontations. As the hours passed, Scrappy reflected on the personal impact of the fight. His relationships with family members, long-standing friends, and industry colleagues were all under strain. The emotional toll was heavy. He had not only defended his reputation but also navigated the complexities of loyalty, pride, and personal history. The confrontation had become a turning point, forcing all involved to examine past actions and current alliances. Kirk Frost, similarly, was reassessing his approach to loyalty, respect, and public perception. Jock remained the bridge, attempting to guide both sides towards some form of understanding, though the path was uncertain. Another twist emerged when a prominent influencer posted a detailed breakdown of the night's events, piecing together videos, eyewitness accounts, and interviews. Their interpretation painted a vivid picture of escalating tension, highlighting subtle gestures, exchanged glances, and moments of hesitation that were otherwise unnoticed. Fans dissected the analysis, debating its accuracy, and the situation grew more layered. Scrappy knew that every narrative competing for attention could redefine how the public perceived him. He began planning follow-up statements, interviews, and social media posts to assert his version of the story, emphasizing transparency, authenticity, and the lessons learned. The night's drama had evolved into a multi-day saga. The initial brawl in the club was no longer just a singular event, it had become a web of interpersonal conflict, family drama, and public scrutiny. Alliances were questioned, reputations challenged, and fans were deeply invested in the outcome. The emotional landscape was complex, with anger, pride, and the desire for respect intersecting in ways that made reconciliation both necessary and difficult. The story was far from resolved, and as Part 4 begins, the tension will escalate further, revealing hidden motivations, deeper personal stakes, and the next chapter in the unfolding drama between Lil Scrappy, Kirk Frost, and young Jock. As the evening approached, the intensity of the situation had only deepened. Lil Scrappy, fully aware that the world was watching, prepared for a live discussion with his closest allies, a session that fans online were desperate to catch snippets from. The energy was tense, every word measured, every gesture scrutinized. He knew that whatever was said in the next few hours could define how the public perceived him, how his rivals would respond, and how his family would interpret the events that had unfolded. His voice, though calm at times, carried an unmistakable edge, a mixture of frustration, pride, and determination to set the record straight. Kirk Frost, across the city, was conducting his own analysis. His team dissected the viral clips, breaking down every angle, every exchanged word, and every reaction. Kirk's pride was raw, fueled by years of unresolved issues with Scrappy and the recent public spectacle. Jock, still attempting to act as mediator, contacted both sides multiple times, urging restraint and careful consideration of public perception. But the emotions were running too high, the pride and personal stakes had grown too large to be easily tempered. As Scrappy spoke to his team, he recounted the moments that had led to the confrontation, offering insights that no one outside his inner circle had heard before. Stories of past betrayals, broken promises, and perceived slights emerged, each one adding depth to the public's understanding of the conflict. Fans online dissected these stories, speculating about hidden motivations, questioning loyalties, and debating the moral high ground. The emotional complexity was staggering. Anger, disappointment, pride, and a need for acknowledgement all intersected in ways that made the situation volatile and unpredictable. Meanwhile, Kirk's camp prepared a counter-narrative. Interviews were arranged, statements drafted, and social media posts queued, all designed to reinforce Kirk's perspective. Accusations of disrespect, manipulations, and provocations were highlighted, each carefully crafted to assert authority, defend reputation, and maintain credibility. Jock, still attempting mediation, found his advice increasingly ignored. Both parties were entrenched, focused on asserting their positions and ensuring that the public narrative aligned with their own perspectives. Unexpectedly, another layer of drama entered the picture. A close family member of Scrappy, previously uninvolved publicly, came forward with insights about the personal toll the conflict had taken. Their words, candid and emotional, added weight to Scrappy's narrative, revealing the strain on relationships, the fear of public judgment, and the emotional exhaustion from navigating both personal and public battles. Kirk, upon hearing this, grew defensive, feeling that private matters were being aired for public consumption, yet the leak only fueled more speculation online. The digital realm became a second battlefield. Fans, influencers, and commentators flooded social media with reactions, memes, and analyses. Every clip, every statement, every nuance was examined in painstaking detail. Scrappy's name trended repeatedly, as did Kirk's and Jock's. Hashtags proliferated, debates raged, and the public's fascination intensified. The night's events were no longer confined to a single club, they had become a global spectacle, with reputations hanging in the balance and every action magnified. Scrappy, aware of the stakes, chose to respond personally. A video statement surfaced in which he addressed the situation, acknowledging the intensity of the night while asserting his perspective. "Last night wasn't easy," he said, voice steady but emotional. "Words were exchanged, emotions ran high, and I want everyone to understand my side. Respect matters, loyalty matters, and I've always tried to do right by those who matter to me. Mistakes were made, but misrepresentation won't stand." The response sparked immediate reactions, praise from supporters, criticism from skeptics, and relentless debate among fans. Kirk, hearing Scrappy's statement, decided on a public response of his own. The tone was firm, assertive, and aimed at reinforcing authority and accountability. Jock, continuing to attempt balance, urged both sides to consider the long-term consequences, the impact on family, and the need to preserve careers and relationships. However, the emotional intensity had reached a level where rational mediation struggled to take hold. The confrontation had transformed from a physical altercation into a psychological, emotional, and public drama, with each participant navigating layers of personal pride, history, and public expectation. Tensions flared further when an old associate of Scrappy leaked additional details about conversations that had occurred earlier in the year, revealing disagreements and conflicts that had been quietly simmering. These revelations added fuel to the fire, sparking renewed speculation online about the depth of the animosity and the possible repercussions. Fans were shocked, emotions ran high, and the digital discourse became as intense as the night itself. The club incident had evolved into a saga, a story interwoven with history, family dynamics, pride, and public scrutiny. Every statement, every social media post, and every public interaction now carried significance. Alliances were questioned, reputations were at stake, and the potential for further escalation loomed large. Fans remained captivated, social media threads exploded, and the drama promised to continue unfolding, with each day bringing new revelations, confrontations, and twists. As the story deepened, it became clear that this was no ordinary fight. It was a test of character, loyalty, and the power of narrative in the age of instant media, setting the stage for revelations and confrontations yet to come. As the days passed, the drama between Lil Scrappy, Kirk and Young Jock showed no signs of fading. Every statement, every social media post, and every leaked clip kept fans on edge, debating, analyzing, and taking sides. The family was left divided, old friendships strained, and the public hungry for answers. Rumors of private meetings, possible reconciliations, and further confrontations only added to the suspense. Scrappy's words had resonated with many, emphasizing respect, loyalty, and the need to control one's own narrative, but Kirk and Jock's camps remained equally vocal, ensuring that the tension stayed alive and unpredictable. Fans were left questioning what truly happened that night, what had been exaggerated, and what underlying histories fueled the explosion. Amidst the chaos, one thing was clear: this story was about more than just a club fight. It was about pride, reputation, family, and the complicated web of relationships in the public eye. Loyalties were tested, emotions ran high, and the stakes had grown far beyond a single night of confrontation. Every twist, revelation, and response only added layers to the drama, leaving fans desperate for resolution yet captivated by the unfolding spectacle. The events had become a lesson in how personal histories, unresolved conflicts, and the court of public opinion can collide in ways that are explosive, emotional, and unforgettable. So now, the question remains: will Lil Scrappy, Kirk, and Young Jock ever truly find common ground? Will alliances shift further, or will the unresolved tensions continue to ripple through their families, friendships, and fanbases? As fans, you get to weigh in. What do you think sparked the fight? Who do you believe has the upper hand in this ongoing drama? Your opinions matter, and your voice is part of this story now. If you want to stay updated on every twist, turn, and shocking revelation, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts below. Share your theories, react to the drama, and let us know how you think this story will unfold. Fans are watching, emotions are running high, and this saga is far from over. The stage is set for even more shocking revelations, and you won't want to miss a single moment. Stay tuned, because in this world of fame, pride, and public scrutiny, every word, every gesture, and every decision can change the game entirely. Your opinion counts, so join the conversation now, and be part of the drama as it continues to unfold.